Okay, I think we're gonna start. I think there's some final people getting a drink, but we are already a little bit over time, and we have such a full and interesting schedule for you tonight. So I really promised myself we will start on time. My name is Kiki Boreel. I will be your host for this evening. So welcome to this third edition of the True Price Festival. We are here together at CIRCL on a very special day, namely Black Friday. And this is a day that companies are throwing sale after sale and really trying to lure us to buy the cheapest products available. So thank you for dodging all these advertisements and for making your way here. And also thank you for skipping the game. I'm very well aware that the Netherlands is kicking off in Qatar right now. So if you are secretly following the game on your phone, give me a little thumbs up if the Dutch team is scoring, so then we all know what's happening. There is already a thumbs up. They already scored a goal. Oh, okay. Already one. Okay, so guys, then we know. It's like, woo, that's a good start. Okay, but okay, we're not here for the game, of course. We're here to discuss something very different. Tonight we will be discussing about if these discounted products are in fact cheap. And aren't we discounting nature and discounting social costs every day? Because if you really think about it, cheap now is costly in the future. And the program was put together tonight by True Price, and also with a big thanks to CIRCL, where we are today, hosting us, and they also helped with the preparations and the production of this event. Also a big thanks to Impact Institute, Stichting Doen, MVO Nederland and Amsterdam Impact, all part of the True Price movement. And I would also like to point out the UN Global Compact Netherlands, who is now doing a campaign together with True Price. So if you want to know more about this campaign, you can find the posters who are there in the back, and there's a QR code that you can scan. And lastly, of course, a thank you to all the companies that are already applying True Pricing and that are here either as speakers or through their products. If you came in, you had a lovely drink, either provided by THIJS or by De Fruitmotor, who is using apples that are not able to be sold in a supermarket because they have a little bruise or a little stain, and they're using their money to improve biodiversity. So as mentioned, we have a busy schedule ahead, full of interesting speakers, and I'm going to give you a little run-through of what to expect, so you can just sit back down and relax. We're going to start to learn a little bit more about CIRCL, because why are we here? And after this, we will dive further into Black Friday with Henk Hofstede. After that, Michelle Scholte will tell us more about True Pricing. And this will be followed by a recording of an interview with Peter Singer. Then, to get us back in the room, we have a reflection by Gilberto Moreschol. And we will end this first part of tonight with a panel discussion together with Ariane van Mansius, Maarten Reinings, Franciscus van Bokhorst and Kieran Green. And then you can have a little break, and it's a full program. And after this break, those who registered will go into their deep dive sessions, but more on that will follow later. So before I introduce the first speaker, I thought it's always nice to really feel the energy in the room and to have some positive energy going. So what we're going to do is a little stand up, sit down. And it's really easy. I have 3 statements for you. If you agree, you stand up. And if you disagree, you sit down. If you're unable to stand up, please raise both your hands if you agree and keep them lowered if you sit down. And I want you to be honest. I don't want you to answer what you think you should think, but I really want you to answer what you think. Okay, so the first statement, it's about language. And it's about when we're asking, oh, who should take the responsibility? Is it business? Is it government? Is it consumers? That's what this is about. The first statement is, I no longer want to be called a consumer. I want to be called an individual. So if you agree, I want to be called an individual rather than a consumer, you stand up. And if you disagree, you sit down. All right. I like how it always sparks a little bit of a conversation in the audience. I see some people are standing up, some are sitting down. That's good to see. We go to the next one. And this one is quite short but strong. Black Friday should be cancelled. If you agree, you stand up. If you disagree, you sit down. Ah, okay, okay. And this wasn't peer pressure, right? When your neighbor stands up, oh, yeah. Really, what you think, be honest. Okay. We have a last one. I am willing to pay the true price for every product that I buy. If you agree, stand up. And if you disagree, sit down. Okay. I was hoping, please stay standing up if you stand up, because I was hoping there would be some people sitting down, some people standing up. And I think it would be nice to have a reflection from the audience. So if you have a very strong opinion on why you're sitting down or why you're standing up, please raise your hand. And somebody with a microphone, yes, somebody with a microphone is going to come. I see one hand raised, someone who disagrees, has a very strong opinion right there. So let's hear it. Why do you disagree? Why do you think I should not pay the true price?
I just wanted to clarify. So there was no definition of what true price is, and then you asked the question. So I wanted to first hear the definition, and then I can agree or disagree.
Yes, you're very, very aware. I just immediately jumped to that part. So the true price of a product is the price for the product plus the costs, environmental and the social cost. And these are often, we don't have to pay for them, so they're hidden. Does that change your... that changes her opinion. Okay. So maybe somebody else who disagrees with the statement, or otherwise I'm just going to select somebody randomly. Oh, somebody over there.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind paying the true price if I got a true salary.
Okay, fair enough. Someone who agrees, who has a very strong opinion on why we should all pay a true price and you are willing to do so.
I think it's the only way we can change the ecosystem. Yeah.
Very easily said. Thank you.
Easily said, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you everybody. You can now have a seat again, rest your legs. And I'm going to introduce the first speaker of tonight, and that is Lotte de Groot. Lotte is the impact consultant at CIRCL. Lotte, welcome. Thank you for telling us a little bit more about where we are, because what is CIRCL?
Well, in short, CIRCL is the circular pavilion of ABN AMRO, but it's much more than just a building. It's a place where new ideas and new form of collaborations are born, and we welcomed over 200,000 impact makers so far. And I really like to think of CIRCL as a building that became a movement.
Nice, and you're welcoming all these impact makers. What is so special about CIRCL? Why do they all come here?
Well, I think the thing that's special about CIRCL is it stands at the THIJS, in the heart of the financial system. And here stands a place where we not only talk about the impact economy, but we also organize and creating and actually making the impact economy happen.
Perfect, and then you are at a good spot to
Exactly.
inspire all these people to
Exactly.
start.
Yeah.
I like that. You're like the little positive. Perfect. What's the connection between CIRCL and True Price?
Yes. Very good question. Well, true pricing creates transparency in the supply chain, and by applying the method of true pricing, the impact becomes visible, and also the costs that need to be made to repair the damage. So I think this transparency is essential to make the transition happen. And we really believe that true price as an instrument is very powerful to accelerate that transition. And that's why we, with ABN AMRO, are partnered up with Impact Institute and True Price. So, for example, ABN AMRO asked Impact Institute to investigate the true price of a jeans. And the results were that a jeans should cost 33 euros more than was on the THIJS pack.
Okay.
So we use this kind of insights to into our events and workshops in order to share those lessons learned and really activate the professionals and the entrepreneurs so we can really make that impact economy happen. So that's how we, together with TruePrice, really facilitate the impact economy.
Perfect. So next time when somebody comes in, you ask them, do you know what the true price of a jeans is?
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now we know where we are, and I think that's good to start off
Really,
with.
yes. Thank you so much.
Our second speaker of tonight is Henk Hofstede. Henk is Sector Banker Retail at ABN AMRO, so please give him a warm applause.
Hi, Kiki. Hello, everybody.
Hi, good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Henk,
I have a little problem with my back, so I don't think what an old man, but I'm a little bit stiff.
do you want to stand a little bit here as
No,
well?
it's-
so you're
it's
not
okay,
in the
it's
bright
okay.
light?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I wouldn't point it out, but it's good that you point it out yourself, you know? You're like,
Okay.
okay.
Let's
well
do it.
done. Henk, a sector banker retail, it has a nice rhythm to it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe can you introduce us a little bit more about who you are and what your role is at ABN AMRO?
Yeah, I try to follow the trends and the developments in the retail. And retail consists of four areas at the bank. We have automotive, everything what is with sales of cars and after sales. Food retail, so supermarkets and food special stores. The non-food, that's the biggest category, shoes and clothing, living, electronics, sports, you name it, and then the wholesale. And what we do, we try to do research on different topics for this sector. We publish about it, we discuss it with clients and with our colleagues, and we are the first contact for the press. So this morning I was at BNR at 11 o'clock also to tell something about BF.
Oh, but you didn't give any spoilers away, right?
No,
you kept
I didn't
everything
dare.
for...
No,
okay.
no.
No, that's
And
good.
I have to say, you speak very well English. I'm the worst speaking English speaker tonight. So with a little bit of help, Van Gaal would say, we come an end. So thank you very much.
But it's not Ruttiaans, so I think
Okay.
you should be
Yeah.
should be fine. You already spoke this morning at the radio because today is Black Friday, and
Yeah.
I assume that's why they called you there as well. What exactly is Black Friday?
It started in the 60s, last century in the United States. It's the day after Thanksgiving, and it was a start that people were buying presents for Christmas. And to lure and to attract people, they started to give huge discounts. And probably you know all the sceneries of fighting customers in front of a store to get in, to get the lowest prices and the best discounts. Terrible. In 2015, some e-commerce parties here in the Netherlands, they introduced it here. Also to lure people with huge discounts. And it's not a day anymore, it's already a week. And we also have the Saturday and we have Monday, the Cyber Monday, the last day that you can buy something with big discounts. So yeah, we're stuck in the middle.
We go for a full week of people running to stores and trying to get the cheapest products available. Wow. Is there certain sectors where it happens more than other sectors? Is it a place where it's more popular? And what do consumers actually think about Black Friday?
Yeah, it's popular at e-commerce. The online retailers, they started with it, but also in electronics. You see it in sports, you see it in living, furniture, and also in beds. Opticians, the glasses.
Yeah.
And also in clothing. And as a bank, we did some years ago research about what the thinking was of consumers about BF. But Milieu Centraal, the NGO, they had this week a research, and they told us that 47% of the respondents said they were neutral against Black Friday, but they delay their purchases in case they can bought something they needed. So 47%. But 1/3 of the consumers said, we dislike Black Friday because it stimulates overconsumption. And then the last 40%, they love it, they shop till they drop, etc. And also 50% was concerned about the effects of overconsumption.
And do you think this is a recent development?
Yeah, it is. We see that the trend of the black side of Black Friday, people are getting more concerned about Black Friday.
That's good.
And retailers as well.
And that's good, because I think, what do you personally feel about Black Friday? I can kind of see.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Black Friday. For instance, first I have to say that the discount you think you get is not a discount, because weeks before they higher the prices and then lower the price before Black Friday, so it's a little bit disappointing. Secondly, many retailers use Black Friday to get rid of overstock, or they just buy new stocks with a low quality, so they can offer it with low prices to attract people to the shops and then try to let them buy other things. And thirdly, retailers, they have a hard time at the moment. Increasing costs, wages, rents, buying stuff from wherever it comes. So I think that the retailer needs more margin instead of less margin. So it's not very a good idea, I think, to participate with Black Friday to survive. And at the end, as we are here, and also the planet, we don't need more stuff. I think we need less stuff.
Definitely, we need to
Yeah.
consume way less. So why if it's not even profitable for these companies, you say they need larger margins? Why do they do it?
Yeah, why they do it? Because other retailers do it. So the fear of missing out, you name it.
Yeah.
But we need less stuff. For instance, clothing. In 2015, we bought together worldwide $62 billion of clothing. And
Wow.
because of the increase of the population and increase of welfare, we expect that it will be $102 billion in 2030. That's an increase of 65%. That's insane. Because everybody knows that the fashion sector is one of the most polluted ones. Pollution of CO2 emissions, pollution with pesticides and insecticides, impact on biodiversity, impact on land, a lack of livable wages. Yeah. So we don't need more fashion, we don't need more clothing, we need less, but from a better quality. And from fast fashion, we have to go to slow and flow fashion, and that together with true price, that would be nice.
Together with true price.
That would be nice.
Exactly, nice little bridge. But before, because I have one final question to you, but before I want to ask everybody, how often do you think that an average person wears their clothes, right? A T-shirt?
We know the answer.
You did the research. So maybe if you think it is more than 20 times, an average person wears their outfit more than 20 times, raise your hand. Oh, that's actually quite a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna start higher. Sorry, more than 50 times. 50 still, yeah. And then we had 20, and then we go to more than 10, or that makes no sense. I'm going to go the other way. Sorry, less than 10. All right, less than 5 times. 1 time.
Sometimes.
Oh, sometimes. Quite nice. You know the answer. You did the research.
The answer is 7.
7 times. An average person wears their outfit 7 times.
And do you know how many pieces of clothing an average Dutch person have in his closet?
I don't think I want to know, but I'm gonna guess 70.
Exclude bras, socks, and underwear.
Okay.
It's 120 till 150. And if I tell you that in 80% of the time we wear 20% of our wardrobe.
Yeah.
In other words, 80% of our stock is dead stock.
Yeah.
And it costs a lot of water to produce, for instance, a kilo of cotton, 10,000 liters of water, and only 2% of all the clothing is recycled. So it's a lot of waste.
It's a lot of waste.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to true pricing because
Yeah.
I think that was a nice little bridge that you made, and then I wanted to do a little interaction.
We did, by the way, together with the Impact Institute, that research about that the jeans.
Of course, the one we just
I'm
heard
very
about.
proud of it.
Nice little collab. A final question. What challenges are there? What do we need to get a true price system?
I think Michel is the guy who can answer that question the best. But in my point of view, first, I think we need more legislation. Raise the bar, a more honest, level playing field to bring more transparency to the market. That's the first thing. Secondly, more cooperation, I think, in supply chain to try to solve externalities in the supply chain, and you can't do that alone. Thirdly, communicate and tell consumers what the true price of a product is. And Eva van der Broeke from Behavior Insights, she's one of the panel. She's later on in the panel. She did some very good research, and she can tell you that if you do that in a good way, most people, most consumers are willing to pay the true price. That's very positive.
That's a good outcome.
It's very positive. And at the last, I would say, let's reduce the amount of sustainable certificates. For instance, for clothing, we have more than 400.
Yeah.
It makes you diffuse, it makes you fuzzy, and many consumers use it as well as an excuse not to buy sustainable products,
Yeah.
if you understand what I mean. So one label, UA label for fashion, sustainable fashion, would be very nice.
General one.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Henk, thank you so much. Give him a warm applause and then...
Have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. The next speaker is already jumping up and down from joy because he wants to talk to you so much. Please welcome Michel Scholte. Michel.
Thank you. Hi, Kiki.
Michel is the executive director and co-founder of True Price. Michel, the stage is all yours. I'm gonna just sit down here.
Thank you. It's honestly enormous. I wanted to say humongous, but enormous. I think honor to stand in front of you, and also I'm so humbled that all of you are here despite the match. I know many of you had to make a hard call to be here. Thank you so much. It's also a nice statement in a way, because as you know, the true price of a stadium ticket is quite high, and it's I don't know. You can lose courage almost if you see these types of developments. These stadia, they were built in a desert. The amount of carbon that's emitted, the destruction of, it's kind of unnecessary destructions. There's so many stadiums already. Why building, a dozen of stadiums in Qatar? It's totally wasteful. However, we are here for seeing what the True Price movement is about. And every year, this is the third time already, we organize a True Price festival on Black Friday. And then obviously, as you were saying, Kiki, we are discounting the future. We are discounting people all over the world. We have, according to the World Bank, old statistics, 740 million people who live for less than $1.90 a day. We have, let's say, 500 million smallholder farmers, 2 billion people relying on those farmers, and approximately 2/3 of those live in poverty, and many of them are actually contributing to food, to very useful stuff. The fashion value chains were pointed out, and we can extrapolate that pattern for many of, or maybe all of the products actually. We've been talking for decades about circularity, about sustainability, about climate neutrality, and not a single product that we buy, let alone that we put in discount, is actually fully sustainable. And that's where the True Price movement wants to play a role. It wants to show, and then the definition, very good point. What's the definition of a true price? Who wants to help me with that? Who knows the definition? Who doesn't? Who knows the definition of a true price? I mean, maybe it's so obvious for you, right? It's the market price plus the social and the environmental cost in the whole value chain of a product. And fundamentally what we do, we take a rights-based approach You have to kind of set a norm, and we basically say, how much would it cost to, respect and protect the rights of people, of nature? And then what we do, we kind of look at what does it cost to restore, to compensate, to prevent, and to find the infringements of those rights. So, for example, the emission of greenhouse gases, how much would it cost to bring it out of the atmosphere so that we don't have the greenhouse effects? What is the market that you could envision? What is the price? What is the invoice for nature to, for example, clean water, to clean the soil, to have regenerative value chains as an integral part of all the products? The outcome of true pricing would be that we consume less and that we consume much and much better. Do we say everyone needs to pay a true price today? No. We wish we could, but unfortunately, as you were pointing out, there's no true wages, there's no living wages, there's no living income. We already have people struggling. In the Netherlands, in Europe, there's a cost of living crisis. The rising costs for energy, it's making it even harsher, even harder for so many. And so we basically say you have to make it transparent, and you have to find ways to address this. And you have to also allow those who can pay, those who can take the responsibility, to actually pay for a true price, through voluntary payment, through default payments. So that is what we try to do. And let me just touch upon a little bit what was done the past year, and it's quite exciting. On the policy side, in the Netherlands, for example, the multi-year true price experiment program came to an end, and that basically brought about so many experiments with true pricing in many value chains, in food mostly, and it really was also contributing to, for example, the supermarket that we will see today. Maarten, you will talk about it. Where's Maarten? Here you are, right in front of me, obviously. So there was, on the EU level, the European Parliament, a vast majority of parliamentarians voted in favor of integrating true pricing into the farm to fork strategy, which is a very long-term, plan to bring down the societal cost, in particular, for example, reducing pesticides, reducing fertilizers used in agriculture, and true pricing is supposed to be part of this if we listen to the European Parliament. So that's also a nice success. On the United Nations level, let's first, in the United States, which was exciting, we contributed to a report, the true price of food in the United States, that even landed on the desk of someone in the White House and led to a listening session on nutritious and healthy and also sustainable food in the US, which is quite exciting. And finally, on the United Nations level, we contributed to a report that calculated the environmental and social cost for the whole world. And what do you think is the percentage of kind of societal costs linked to the total produced and consumed food in the world per year? How much percent do you think the societal costs are for the total produced and consumed food in the world? Who thinks it's more than, and raise your hand if you think it's more than 20%. More than 20% of what we have in expenditures in food? Almost all of you. More than 50%, and okay. More than 100%, 200%, 300%. You even think it's more than 300%.
Yeah, because we need to calculate also the health costs.
Good point.
If you eat processed food all your life, there comes a certain age that you have to pay the price.
Yeah.
And like we're seeing now in the whole world, the healthcare costs are exploding.
Exactly, and think of indeed cardiovascular diseases, Parkinson, the fastest growing brain disease that's according to researchers linked to exposures to pesticides all over the world. It's a very tragic consequence, a particular food that is supposed to be healthy. The answer is, of the $11 trillion spent on food per year, there's a 200% kind of, societal and natural and health cost. So health was included in this assessment, and that includes a kind of a tiny part on that scale of expenditures, but a large part of the decrease of quality and quantity of life years. And that is indeed very costly and something that's hard to kind of monetize. But there are ways of monetizing that, and that led to a huge gap. Biodiversity was also very big. That's the, well, as you know, the rate of deforestation, the rate of biodiversity loss is unprecedented. In the last 68 years, 50% of the species amount is lost in the world, which is obviously extremely tragic. And we've showed that. We have launched a official United Nations Food System Summit initiative, which hopefully gets some kind of key decision makers. We even brought ministers in Davos at the World Economic Forum to a dinner with true prices, so that creates quite some awareness, we hope. An extension on the political policy side, we had the liberals in the Netherlands, the VVD. They are not known for their progressive nature necessarily, but 49% of them in the kind of Congress last weekend voted in favor of the polluter pay principles with a plea for true pricing. 49%. That's not 50. That's not actually sufficient to have that motion adopted. But I think it's telling. One of the more conservative parties that have adopted this idea. It's really exciting. Business. We see many businesses, dozens of businesses, 20 purchase points. THIJS-drinks, you recently chipped in. We already had the Krenkelaar. So there are many food and beverage companies offering transparency on true pricing. We have 20 purchase points where there's transparency, but also voluntarily and even default payments. Consumers paid for more than 100,000 transactions the true price. It's unthinkable. It was unthinkable 5 years ago. Marketeers thought this was a crazy idea, and we will talk about it in a bit. Research shows that there's indeed a very big enthusiasm amongst consumers, obviously. However, are consumers able to pay? That's obviously a different question. Exciting final points. We had 2,500 farmers in the Netherlands who set out their priorities, and the first priority was true pricing. Again, who would have thought that? Obviously, they suffer from prices that are insufficient to bear the cost for more sustainable production. So it's kind of a logic. So wrapping up, we see a lot of movement. It's unprecedented, and it's kind of sometimes you have to pinch your cheek to at least being part of the true price movement, to realize that you're not dreaming. Is it really happening? Is this really proposed? Is this really so, something that, for example, these conservative parties want? At the same time, it's just breadcrumbs. And we obviously need to go for the cake. And I think, we are as a movement having the wind in our sails, but the stream against us. And the question is, are we going ahead? Do we make actually progress? And I think fundamentally, and that was touched upon already by you, Hank, we need to also focus on changing the stream of the water, making sure that we get the stream in our favor. And that obviously points towards fiscal changes, policy changes, procurement on the government level, making sure that these big drivers, for example, on fossil fuels, 17.5 billion euros a year of subsidies to fossil fuels. You can have true pricing, but with such a counter movement, it's very hard to make actual progress. So I think that's really a direction that we need to look at. And there's many publications that we have worked on together with many of you to bring that about. So that was kind of a highlight of the movement. Thank you so much once again, and looking forward to, having workshops and having all sorts of exciting things in a bit.
Thank you. Thank you, Michel. Give him a warm applause. I like how you're always talking so passionately, and I feel like you can talk for another 10, 20, 50 hours. But we have a full program, so thank you again. And now we'll go on to the next interview. Perfect. So next up, we have a video interview for you, especially recorded for today, with Peter Singer. He's a bioethics professor at Princeton University and a philosopher. So the video that you will be seeing is an edit of a longer video. Yeah, let's start the video. Please, I hope you enjoy it.
Because the reason we once just received an email in the info inbox, and I forwarded it to to Maurits, one of my colleagues, and he studied philosophy. And he was like, "Is this really Peter Singer?" And he was like, and this is apparently the most, and I knew it, but I didn't realize it. It's called the rock star philosopher, one of the more famous one, and he's a fan of this movement. So feel empowered by his words, I'd say.
Definitely.
Professor Singer, Peter, thank you so much for this occasion to speak to you about true pricing. And the first question to you is, what's your opinion about true pricing?
I think it's a wonderful idea. It is a dramatic way of showing to people what they're not actually paying for when they just go to a standard supermarket and they get commodities cheaply, but they're imposing a cost on others. And the idea that we can have the opportunity to understand what it is that we're imposing on others and what it would cost us to really pay the true price of the product is, I think, an excellent educational tool, and I hope it spreads.
If there's one product you would propose a true price for, what product would it be and why?
The product that I would like to propose a true price for would be a meat product, in particular products that come out of factory farms. It could be meat like chicken, where I think the true pricing would have to include something for the suffering of the animals that's involved, but also for the environmental costs. And if we're talking about red meat in particular, then the environmental costs get significantly higher in terms of the impact that beef and dairy are having on the environment and raising global warming, and the catastrophic impact that has already been having in people in many countries, and will increasingly have over coming decades if we don't do something very drastic about it. That's why I think it would be really essential to have true pricing for animal products. Economists recognize that a flaw in the market is that externalities are not included in the prices of goods. And that's exactly the problem that we are dealing with, that when somebody produces beef, let's say, and someone else buys it, the impact affects everybody in the world, and particularly those who are most vulnerable to climate change, who tend to be the poorer people living in hotter parts of the world, and people who are more dependent on agriculture and rainfall and climate to produce their food.
Yeah.
So the cost to them is simply not part of the transaction between the beef producer and the beef consumer. So I think we should be able to get political consensus on the idea that even if we stick to the principles of a free market, it must price in the externalities and compensate the people who are harmed by that transaction, but are not part of the transaction.
There's another issue that we would love you to reflect on. That's the concept of pricing things that you may not be able to price at first sight, such as nature, right? The intrinsic value of nature, using prices to express the restoration cost, the prevention cost, the compensation cost may trigger kind of the commodification of nature. How would you reflect on that risk that's often identified by critics?
Well, again, it's a matter of taking a long-term view. When people talk about the commodification of nature, they're thinking of things like cutting down forests now in order to sell the timber, and not worrying about the fact that the forest may never regrow or may take many centuries to regrow in the way it was, and possibly, of course, the loss of endangered species in that forest who will never be there again. So the true pricing has to take that very long-term view and say, how much would future generations be willing to pay to have this let's say, stay with the forest example, to have this forest in a natural state, a virgin state that has not been cut and changed, with the animals who have inhabited that forest for millennia or millions of years. And I think that would almost always be much more than the price of the timber as a commodity. So we have to somehow insist on taking that long-term view. The calculations actually are not going to be easy, because when you think about long-term future, you get, really effectively a prohibition against destroying things that cannot be replaced or that will not be replaced for a very long period. You could say that you're giving almost infinite value to the preservation. Now, I don't think anything really has infinite value, but a very high value that should protect it against being treated as a commodity for the present generation only.
Thank you so much for that encouragement, and also for the whole conversation, Peter. It was a real pleasure to speak to you, and we are all looking forward to reading more of your thoughts in the upcoming book.
Right.
Thank you so much, and
Good.
well,
You're welcome.
have a nice afternoon.
Thanks.
Great. I always really like when we clap for a video. But maybe you can pass the applause along if you speak to Peter next time. We appreciated it. He's definitely a big name. I remember I had to read his pieces on animal rights for my philosophy of science. Really interesting. If you want to read, definitely read it. So for now, to bring us a little bit back into the place where we are, it's always, if you look at a screen, it's good to then start looking at a person again. Yeah, they're also very excited in the back. Please, I would like to welcome to the stage now Gilberto Morisol.
Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. Everybody close your eyes. I want to ask you to remember an object or a thing that you received that was so meaningful and so magical to you. It might be a scarf that your grandmother knit, or your first plushie that you got as a child. It might be a bracelet that your friend gave you, recognizing your friendship. It might be something that somebody made for you, an art piece that your child made. Think about it. How does it feel? What does it look like? What does it make you feel? Open your eyes. Now, think again about the last thing you bought. What does it make you feel? Anybody feel something? Why is mass consumption so underwhelming? Why is the commodification of everything that we have such a meh process that everything that we buy leaves us wanting for more, leaves us unsatisfied? Honestly, we've lost our connection with the world around us. And we see that in everything that we do. We lost our connection with the land, how we extract products and extract oil and extract mass-produced agriculture. We've lost connection with people, how we're able and so easily willing to treat others as though they are meaningless. So easily we are able to step on the rights of others. We've lost our relationship with the seasons and the time. What do we see around? Back in the day, time mattered a lot within the seasons. Every season had a celebration. Every season had something that brought power, that brought remembrance, that brought connection to it. Right now, everything is consumerism. From the things that we buy, it's often all about buying. Look at our holidays, right? Let's look at Valentine's Day. What is it about? It's about buying chocolate and buying flowers. Christmas is about buying presents, the most expensive thing. Santa Claus is the same. Thanksgiving is about shoving food down your gut so that you go and have enough energy to beat someone up tomorrow so you can get the last air fryer because they're on discount. Boo-boo. And What does that say about us, that we've lost such our connection with the sanctity of things and the sanctities, and that we've replaced meaningfulness and we replaced love and we replaced purpose with this consumption aimed at helping us to cope with the fact that our lives are empty and sad? I mean, I'm just here to speak the truth, kids. Like, they asked me to be here, you know? So we're adapting ourselves in such a way. And you can see it even in an example, you know, like during COVID, like a lot of us weren't miserable because we were at home. We were miserable because, you know, we couldn't do the same things that consumption taught us, brought us meaning. You know, whether that's going out or having a snack. And it's good, but if our community is only based on our collective consumption, look, the word for consumption isn't also a synonym for tuberculosis. You know, so what does it say that consumption has become our identity, where we are labeled as consumers? That says a lot. So objects also have meaning. Objects also, stuff carries significance if we are willing. Stuff is often connected to time. You know, you received it for an occasion. It's often connected to a place. You're connected to the land. You're connected to where you're from. It is often connected to people. Someone gave it to you. Yet, in mass consumerism, all of that is erased because we don't know where it's from. We don't know where it's going. We just bought it because, oh, it was on discount. It was on sale. And it carries no significance to us whatsoever. And we see that, you know, back in, look at some magical holidays. For example, the quinceañera in Latino America, they have that. When a girl turns 15, they get like a little party with like a beautiful dress, and everybody comes together to celebrate that object, and that dress has meaning because it's connected to place and it's connected to community. When you look at bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, and you can look in your own experience, there are occasions in your life where you've received something that is connected with the location and connected with your identity and your community so much that it is valuable and it is important for you. That's what it means to have something that matters. To be in relationship with something and not just to consume it and throw it away. What might it look like if we understood objects and stuff and contextualize it in such a way that we become interdependent? You know, that I don't actually need that extra thing because my neighbor has it, and the action of me walking and asking my neighbor for help creates something even bigger than me just buying a washing machine myself. That we can create and design communities where interdependence is at the core, where interdependence brings people together, and this collaboration leads us to not needing as much because we recognize that not having it is actually an asset. That not having it actually brings me closer to my family. And I think it's time that we start reinventing what it means to consume, and we let go of even this word of consumption, where we recognize that relationship is a significant part for all of us, and that relationship brings us together. We have a relationship with these objects because they are useful to us, because they connect us with ourselves, with the land, and with our time. And I think it requires for all of us to imagine just a bit more. What might it look like to not have to buy that? One of the big benefits of us being here in Europe, right, is that we do have a lot of access to collective transport and stuff like that. You know, we go in the train together. That's a way of envisioning what collective interdependence might look like in the public sphere. How might it look like in the private sphere? What does it take for us to have this interdependence that creates relationship with objects that are meaningful, that are intentional, and ultimately relationships that recognize the sanctity of why we need things and how we produce things and where it is going and the purpose behind it? What if we had a relationship with stuff that was meaningful, intentional, and holy?
Thank you, Gilberto, for reminding us of the value of things and that we need to start having relationship with the things we buy again. The last thing I bought was lemons. Maybe we need to discuss how I'm going to have a relationship with it, but we'll talk afterwards about this. How are we feeling? Do we need a little energizer maybe to get the blood flowing again? Yeah, a little, yes. Okay, I have one more statement, and just to make sure that you all know what to do. If you agree, you... Oh, I was hoping you would stand up. If you agree, you... Yeah! And if you disagree, you... Yeah! Okay, now for real with a statement. We need to put a price on nature for people to understand its value. So if you agree, stand up, and if you disagree, stay seated. Agree. Maybe is there anyone who wants to reflect on this? Anybody who has a strong opinion about it? There's people quickly sitting down like, no, not me. Somebody there in the back, yeah.
I feel like, to me, this is a very complicated question, because on the one hand, we are commodifying nature, as was said by Peter Singer as well. And on the other hand, you also want people to understand the intrinsic value of life and nature in general. So I ended up standing, but I'm having a very hard time to make a decision.
You're like squatting a little bit.
Basically.
Okay. Yeah, no, it is a complicated question. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think one reflection is good for now. Thank you. You can sit down again. Okay, I think now we're energized for our panel, but before I invite the panel to the stage, I would like to invite Michelle again to the stage, because she was already mentioned. Eva van den Broek would come here to talk about her research on consumer behavior, but unfortunately she's ill, like a lot of different people. So Michelle is going to quickly walk us through some of the highlights of her research. Michelle, please come to the stage again.
On behalf of Eva, Eva unfortunately is ill. She's a behavioral economist and also specialized in consumer behavior. And the nice thing of what is her expertise, that she really does experiments, and meaning experiments that is more revealing behavior. And one of the things she did was designing a real supermarket, the digital supermarket, but also in her surveys, she is able to, formulate questions that are much more valid than the typical surveys that include so much response bias, such as, norm, kind of people who want to conform to a norm, conformity bias. So that is all dealt with. If we look at a few results, key results, the first one, what's interesting. Next slide, please. That is that if people are asked, what would you think? And this is a representative panel of the Dutch consumers. What would you think if the true price was accounted for all or some products within a product group? Do you think it is important, fair, and acceptable? And what you see is that in yellow, there's only, let's say, up to 20% of the people who would say, no, it's not important, it's not fair, it's not acceptable. In blue, you see that a vast majority of people, that is almost 60%, say it's actually very important. And that's, again, many people portray this, I would say, false dilemma between the citizen and the consumer, as if they are kind of opposites, as if people, say they would, but intrinsically wouldn't do it when it comes to the decision. And what we oftentimes forget is that supermarkets aren't perfect experimental kind of situations on the basis of which you can conclude how people think about things. It's very much manipulated, it's clinical, people are deliberately kind of moved into certain directions. So it's really important to kind of ask those kind of questions in a responsible way and not conclude too much from how people kind of choose in supermarket settings. The second illustration, what would you do if you would have to pay the true price of a pot of chocolate pasta, such as Nutella? And what you see is that 42% actually would buy the same. So that is, again, well, interesting. You obviously also see that people would buy one with less true cost. So this means that you may have a shift in decisions and also traffic towards those products that have less true costs, which is obviously creating an incentive purely on the basis of transparency. So that's extremely exciting. And then the third slide, Fernanda, that is the one that you see here. How important would you find it to receive extra information about the following things? And then what is striking here is the third answer, that is how the extra money is spent. People find it very important, and also who controls that money in order to assure that it is spent well. Not surprisingly, people, if they chip in with voluntary or default payments, they would like to see where it ends up with. They find that very important. How it's calculated, still important, and also what is the breakdown, what is leading to planet, what is leading to people kind of well-being. If you can raise your hand, if you need to choose, are you more kind of a planet person or more a people person? Who's more a planet person? Raise your hand. Okay, interesting. And then I assume those who raise their hand now are more people persons? Interesting, yeah, okay. And that is why, because some of you may feel, nature is the fundament, is kind of it precedes life, it's what determines life, is that correct? Who raised a hand somewhere? Yeah, right? It's kind of like that, cool. Very, very valid research. Not at all projecting my own thoughts. Next slide, final slide. Very interesting. This is what she also looked at, is how would true prices do best on the shelf? And this is a digital hypothetical store where consumers were actually able to choose. And basically she compared different visual representations of true pricing. And here the experiment was which label is the most clear to express a true price, and the crucially is here sold for €2.99, and the true price would be €3.75. Note that the actual calculations were hypothetical, so it's not actually the gap. But still, it's interesting, what would be the best way to kind of design the kind of visual representation of the true price. And in the next slide, you see the results. The most preferred, and that is 25% of the respondents preferred a pie chart, as you can see, that represents what is the, I think it's the total price, and then, or kind of the retail price, and then what is the true price as a slice, a pizza slice. That shows kind of what is the true price in total. A bar chart is preferred secondly, and then kind of a written statement with only 14% as a third option. So it's interesting. Next slide, you see a few more variations. There's an actual serious attempt by, for example, France and other nations in the European Union to bring about traffic light systems. It's not really something that consumers find super interesting or kind of useful. The Dutch Competition Authority actually concluded that the current labeling efforts aren't sufficiently kind of clear for consumers. They do opt for some sort of universal standard, and what was super striking is that they literally ask for true pricing to the Dutch government. And that is, again, not a Greenpeace or NGO, but it's the neutral, objective, relatively conservative competition authority that asked this. Again, there's research now backing them up. And finally, that is very interesting, if you go one more down the road. There was a digital supermarket where consumers were basically given a budget, €5, and they could buy a bag of tea, and the tea was actually delivered to those consumers. And basically what was kind of, call it manipulated, was the optionality, whether or not the true price is optional, and also whether or not it's a default option. And then in the results, what you saw is that, next slide, that's, such a cliffhanger. Do I have it on the back? I think 96% of consumers would pay a true price if the default option is true pricing. So that's a very high percentage. Obviously, they did have budget to accommodate for that. That's, again, willing versus being able is something else. If the true price was not the default, so that's not the norm, you have to actively click on paying a true price. I think it was around 60% or so. And if the so that's very interesting. Again, it's kind of what is the norm that's portrayed through the default option in decisions in the supermarket or on e-commerce. So that was her results.
Thank you.
And I know it's I'm not completely unbiased, but she is actually unbiased, and the report.
These slides are hers.
It's hers, and also the report is published. So
perfect. So
thank you so much.
You can read it. Thank you for stepping in. All right. I would now like to welcome our lovely panel to the stage. So please give a warm applause to Ariane van Mansius, Maarten Reinings, Franciscus van Bokhorst, and Kieran Green. And you can have a seat on these chairs. I'll stay standing. Yeah. One more.
Hello. You got a microphone.
Yeah. Perfect. Welcome, all. Thank you for being here and to share some of your insights, because each of you is already implementing true pricing in practice. So really looking forward to hear all what you've learned. Maybe as a start, I would like for you to introduce yourself, introduce the company that you're representing, and maybe share an initial image or thought that you have when you hear Black Friday. Maybe I can start.
Yeah, sure.
Here.
My name is Franciscus van Bokhorst. I'm a co-founder of THIJS-drinks. We produce drinks based on wasted fruits. We do this since 2015, and we are a member and partner in the Verspilling is Verrukkelijk society. We're one of the initiatives. And recently, it's already 5 years ago, I came in touch with the True Price movement, and I thought this is the next thing we need to implement in our strategy. At that point, there were no real models available, so it took some time. And last year, we started this process with the True Price Institute in collaboration with Ariane, with her True Price Cafe, which she will later tell you. And then we decided we have to calculate this because we want to be the first one. We were basically one of the first in the world producing juices and beverages from wasted fruits. So we wanted to be the first one to show the world that we need to make a true price calculation, and whatever the outcome will be, we need to do this. So we want to be an example for the whole food industry from our side to do the same.
Thank you. Black Friday in one word for you?
It serves a certain purpose. I always say if you...
one word?
One word. I think we should stop this.
Stop.
Yeah, stop.
I'm gonna rephrase it to stop.
Yeah,
perfect.
Stop.
Thank you, Maarten.
I'm owner of the Aanzet. It's an organic true price supermarket. We started exactly 2 years ago, and we have a lot of challenges. We are really on a road, and I hope within 5 years to have about 80-90% of all our products, which is also in an average supermarket, say like 8,000 products to have on the true price.
Perfect. And Black Friday in one word for you?
Fantastic discount.
Okay. Interesting. It's a nice little balance between you two. Up next, Kieran.
Good evening, I'm Kieran. I'm the Sustainability Manager at Bokke Coffee. Bokke is a specialty coffee company which focuses on people and the planet. And we started earlier this year with True Price to assess the true cost of our coffee from Brazil and Peru. Actually, again, thanks to Ariana, who offered us the space to serve our coffee in her True Price cafe. And we continued our journey from there, really, to explore the data with our partners in Origin, and also working with Impact Institute and True Price to make true pricing a reality for Bokke.
Perfect.
Yep.
True pricing, or a Black Friday in one word?
A carnival of consumerism.
Carnival. Perfect. Ariana, your last. influencer of tonight, I can
well,
see.
I just have to mention, yeah, this is Ariana van Mansjes, owner of the first True Price Cafe in the world. In 1999, I opened one of the first sushi bars with a rotating system here in Amsterdam. And I wanted to do, again, something which was unique, preferably not done before. And when lying under a palm tree, the idea came up of opening the first True Price Cafe on the world. I called to Maurits from the True Price Institute, is this already existing? No, it's not. And then I got really enthusiastic and got two of these guys on board. And also Dilma, the tea makers. And I embarked on a fantastic journey, sitting here today. I didn't know that 1.5 years ago. And for me, Black Friday, this morning, my whole email bumped in. It's hysteric.
Hysteric, yeah. I have the same. I keep having to delete all these emails, even
apps,
though I feel...
everyone is,
it's everywhere. Ariana, I'm going to stay with you. Can you maybe share with us a learning from your process of becoming the first True Price Cafe?
Yes, certainly. There are several. First of all, maybe the most important thing is people immediately want to know, where does the money go to? If you don't have a good story there, people don't trust you. It's about transparency, but if you cannot explain exactly where the money goes, then the story is not fully accepted.
Yeah.
Some other thing is that what you asked, People Planet, that also has to do with education, because outside of the cafe on the market day on Friday, we also have a serving tray with little boxes, all handmade, with holes in it, and then we give people 3 little coins, and then we ask them random on the street, and there everybody comes there, low, high, everything, educated, not whatever comes by on the market, old, young. And then we give them these 3 coins and ask them, where do you want to give your money to? So we explain what is true price, and then the social and ecological part. And then we see that higher educated people give the coins to the planet, and the lower educated to child labor, underpayment, under earnings. So there is a division. So that is a learning.
Interesting. Yeah.
Another very important story for retailers, I think Maarten also has experienced that, is people are always willing to pay if you tell the story.
Yeah.
But there is not enough room in retail or in restaurants to tell this story.
Yeah.
And because we are not commercial, I do this as a hobby and as being part of the solution, we have time to explain. We only get 6 to 10 customers per day in on Wednesday to Friday. We have the time to explain, and then people leave with this sort of aha-erlebnis, and then they are aware, and then they can plan, and then they come to action.
Yeah, and I see a lot of nodding of the other panelists when I say people are willing to pay the price. I think, Kieran, you are doing a voluntarily payment, right? Do you see that people are indeed willing to pay this price?
Yeah, absolutely. And what we see on the web shop sales now is that it's increasing as well as we get better at communicating our story with True Price. Initially, it was very difficult kind of setting out and opening up our costs and saying, yeah, this is our social and environmental impact. And people were saying, you know, you're a coffee that it has a positive impact on people in the environment. What are these costs? Why are there costs associated with your product? When the truth is that actually, you know, all the products that we consume do have environmental and social costs attached to them. And what we can see now is, as we explain our story better and people start to understand a bit more, you know, that the costs, the products that we consume do have costs attached to them, then they are, you know, engaging more with true pricing, and there's a visibly increased uptake of True Price as well.
And these conversations then happen maybe in the cafe, for example, or do you also talk with them online?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can see it at our espresso bar in Amsterdam. People are engaging more with the product and choosing the true pricing option. It's a voluntary payment, so you don't have to pay the true price, but we see now more and more people are choosing to pay the true price.
Nice, that's good to hear. Franciscus, you did the True Price scan. Are there any interesting insights that you came through?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Please do share.
One shocked me was child labor.
Okay.
I had a feeling that it was something, but it was huge. And it had mainly to do with the fact that we have organic ginger. Our product is also organic, certified. And our organic ginger is coming from China.
Okay.
And so the big chunk of the cost is child labor. So that gave us the idea, directly the motivation, okay, we have to source the ginger from some other areas, but then probably, but that's not 100% sure yet. It could be the same situation somewhere else in the world, because ginger is not growing so far in the Netherlands. They're trying to do it in vertical farming, and in the future there will be possibilities, I hope. But for in our case, we have to find another solution in this.
Yeah. So the transparency definitely motivates you to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
This,
and we
find.
exactly. Sorry, we discussed this because it was also published in the NRC, and we discussed a lot. Should we publish or not, or should we do it or not? And we came to the conclusion we need to be transparent. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
The whole world that something what's coming from China could be fishy. So then just be open about it and start finding a solution for it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Ariane, I saw you wanted to respond to that. I saw you.
Yeah, maybe it's interesting for people to know where are we talking about. So the drinks of THIJS, that are 3 drinks. This is the lemon ginger. What do you think is the true price gap of this drink? Raise your hand if you want to tell it.
Good question.
Otherwise,
who wants to do a little guess?
Anybody an idea? Because then we know where we're talking about. Yeah.
20 cents?
Well, not too bad. It's 38 cents on the specific ginger lemon, but on the other one it's just 7 cents. And on the coffee it's 1 cent. So just to have a perspective where we're talking about.
Actually, I wouldn't mind paying an extra cent. I already pay 50 cents extra for my oat milk, but that's maybe a different discussion, not for tonight. Martin, I would like to come to you. You have the first True Price supermarket. I guess there is also a lot of interaction with your clients there. How do you feel that consumers or customers respond to the True Price in the aanzet?
Well, we don't give the voluntary option. I think it's a very bad option to give consumers the choice if they pay it or not, so they have to pay it. And there was a lot of fear. Also, I had a lot of fear to let people pay the true price. And I thought maybe I lose 10% of my turnover, but it was the opposite. I made more profit. So I don't understand, I do this now 2 years, why there are not more followers.
Why you don't have more followers?
Yes,
maybe do a little shout out.
Because we earn more
to the room.
Asking the true price. So there is here, look here, how many people are here who are interested in paying the true price. So it is in an area of Amsterdam or in the Randstad. It is possible to do. We are not in Winschoten, where it is far more difficult to do.
You don't know.
There are many options to make good business of it. So it is also good business. It is not, oh, I'm really good for the world. No, it is business. So just start your own business in True Price.
So you're asking other people to also start applying this True Price.
Yeah, I mean,
Are you taking over the influencer spot of Ariane here?
Well, we here, he's not from Ahold, he's not from DSM. Who are sitting here as small initiatives? It is really worse for while for big companies to do it.
Yeah.
And to start it and to make it happen.
So we need the power of people to ask them to do so. Martin, I'm going to stay with you for a second because Ariane already touched upon it. Where does the money go afterwards?
It's a difficult process. I'm not going to say it's easy. People see the true price. They see at the checkout the true price which they have to pay. It's directly calculated on a screen. So if you pay €1 true price, it's on the counter directly after you pay. You see the total amount which we are going to spend on the hidden cost, and we have chosen for direct remediation. So we have 2 farms where we do direct remediation, and so we want to show the consumer, okay, now you pay for cauliflower 5 cents hidden cost, and next year you can pay 4 cents, and the year after 3 cents, and maybe it stocks with 1 cent, but we want to show the people how we can bring it back. And there is an excursion always in September. We have done it now 2 times. You're welcome to come to the excursion and see how we do it at farms, but it's not an easy process.
And bringing down these costs is because then the damage will be brought down, so you don't have to pay for the damage.
So we bring the damage down, and so finally, I hope it is possible, after 5 to 10 years, there are no hidden costs more, or really low hidden costs in the supermarket. So consumers start paying less compared to the other supermarkets around our supermarket.
We need to have competition on the sustainability part too.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Finally, we will be cheaper than Dirk van den Broek and the Lidl if we calculated the true price.
That's a good.
So
that's a
my
good
aim.
goal. That's a good goal. I like that. Yeah, we can have a little applause for that. We can have a little applause for that. Ariane, I would like to ask you this because I now learned that you are the influencer. What is the next product that you would like to see having a true price? We already discussed that in the fashion industry. There's a lot of hidden costs as well, which are maybe not so hidden anymore. What would you like to see have a true price?
Very clear on that, a ticket.
Ticket?
Yeah, and Karel and Mario are also here from KLM, and they also want to know it. What is the price from a ticket?
So we need to calculate it first, and then we need to... So it's not the €7, I'm guessing, right?
No.
No.
Also, a big social part. Why is Schiphol totally a chaos? Is also related to poor circumstances, unhealthy circumstances, low wage, dirty jobs. Is also a result of it. Next to CO2, a lot of emissions. What do you think of the de-icing of an airplane and all that de-ice material that goes into the it's a very dirty business. So
very many
not only
social
the CO2,
and
it's much more.
Yeah, good, and we need to have that transparent. Kieran, what do you think should be the next product that should have true pricing?
I think flights. I think that there's so much. Such a big cost associated with flying, and it's done so frequently. People need to be more aware of the cost of flying, and particularly because it's done so much for business as well, and people need to start thinking about how we can connect that to.
Great. Martin, flying?
No, fossil fuel energy. It is relating to flying, fossil fuel energy.
Yeah.
So last week we had a discussion, and we willing to start with 3 to 5 farms which want to do fossil fuel-free farming.
Fossil fuel-free farming.
So,
yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
Good. Franciscus, last thing for you.
It's a combination of both. I think the meat industry needs to be very transparent because besides the whole flight industry, it's terrible. And that link to processed foods, because the world is going down on processed foods.
Yeah.
And that's mainly the part of the healthcare we have to pay in a certain moment, which we cannot afford anymore.
Agreement with Peter Singer there. I
Absolutely.
like it. Then I'm just going to say clothing, because I wanted to have clothing in there as well, but these are also very, very important. Maybe a final question, and then also I would like to have some questions from the audience, so already think about a question, if you have it, that you want to ask our panelists. But first I would like to ask each of you the same question again. Where would you like to be, and I'm going to start here, Franciscus, where would you like to be in 5 years from now, maybe in 2 or 3 sentences?
I hope we're motivation together with the people who are sitting here, that the whole industry is going to adapt the model of true pricing, and that we can change the people, planet, profit modulation in a different way.
We need to change the stream.
Absolutely.
The stream.
Today.
Martin.
At least one big supermarket chain which is doing the same like we are doing.
One of the big ones.
One of the big ones, and it's going to happen.
Perfect. Are you there at their doorstep, telling them what to do?
I hope next year they will visit our supermarket, and I am able to convince them. And maybe I take Michel with me. That helps a lot.
Yes. As we've all seen, he's very passionate when he talks about true pricing. So I think that's a very good idea. Kieran, where would you like to see Bocca in 5 years?
Yeah, I think increasing the scope and scale of our true price work, so looking at more origins, the factors that are assessed, and also people feeling more connected to where their coffee comes from and the costs associated with that.
Nice. So also more that relationship that we heard.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. Last but not least.
The system, the polluter pays.
Yeah, okay, very simple. Thank you. Now I'd love to have some questions from the audience. So if you do have a question, please raise your hand. I think I saw a first hand over here.
Hi, my name is Chloe. I work at HelloFresh, and I actually have a question for you. How long does it take to have the hidden cost, like the research? How long does it take per product?
Very hard to say. There's so many types of products. Building a apple from the Netherlands, apple from Chile. So it very varies. But if you want to, and also, would you like to have a supermarket apple or an apple, processed in juice? It's obviously different. But let's say you could have a true price already in a week, specified, and then you can always make it more accurate. Or, depends also which type of apple. It's unfortunately hard to say specifically on average.
So it depends on the origin mostly?
Yeah, obviously. It's
and
different.
what you have already done.
Yeah, exactly. Also what type of data you need for the purpose.
I think Martin really wanted to jump in on that.
Just pass by.
Ah.
I don't see you as a competitor. HelloFresh. Please come by, I tell you. It's
Perfect.
not that complicated, Michel tells you.
Yeah. Just pass by the Aanzet.
Just in the pipe in Amsterdam, very close to here.
And then we have a new one influence, so that's good. Amazing.
Oh,
Another
one
question.
supermarket and one provider of delivered
That's
meals.
a big one.
Oh,
That's a big one we
I
have.
didn't think about that, but it's good.
Perfect.
Thank you all. I have two short questions to Michelle, if you don't mind. So first question is, what is the difference between true price and fair trade?
Yeah, it's very different. So fair trade is a label that has kind of a standard behind it that kind of has certain production, call it, criteria. It has a minimum price. So if a farmer, due to market circumstances, would get a lower price, they guarantee the minimum price. They have, call it, programs on farm, also premium, finally, that is paid through cooperatives that assure, social projects. And they are also now working towards living wages. So they have certain criteria. Through pricing, we have supported fair trade and other certification bodies to implement true pricing. So for example, their bananas, what is the true price of a fair trade banana compared to an average banana, let's say poverty banana? Fair trade, unfortunately, and they know, aren't there yet, but they do perform better. I think they have like 70 cents or so for for kilograms of bananas, whereas the sector had more than 30 cents. And this is a weighted average of Peru, Dominican Republic, Colombia, and what was the fourth origin? Another fourth option. Ecuador. Yeah, Ecuador. Yeah, good one. So they had a weighted average comparison with the sector average, and actually they used it to convey to supermarkets that they should go for fair trade bananas, and they were able to sell millions of more of bananas on the basis of this hard data. And they also used, for example, living wage calculations for reference prices in, for example, cocoa. And this was based on the models, and we actually work open source, so their specialists use the open source method to, improve their certification system.
Mm-hmm. Before you ask your second question, because I really do want the questions to be asked to our panel, but afterwards, there will be people from the True Price team. You can approach them for all your questions. They are wearing a blue ribbon, but for now I would like to have a question for our panelists who are sitting here so patiently.
I can imagine people coming to the supermarket or to the store or want to buy some cider, and they want to pay a true price, but they also want the money to go to the good places. Like, you calculated what is a true price, but how do you make sure that the money that they give you as a supermarket or as a cafe actually ends up at the right places?
Yeah.
If you understand
Martin,
the question.
do you want to, because this is...
It's
You
very
kind of told
easy.
us a bit.
It's very easy. You can see what the total amount is we get every day, and you can come to the place where we invest it, and you can see it with your own eyes.
This is the farm he was referring to.
The farms where we do the remediation, we organize an excursion to them, and so you can see what happens and how we do it. And so the farmer herself will tell you what she is doing and how she tried to bring back the hidden cost. So it's really visual.
And also for coffee that goes to Colombia.
What I told you, it's really complicated. Actually, the hidden cost of my bananas go now to the stack and the stack in Lelystad and the Almershof in North Holland. It's a arable farm. But in the perfect world, the banana money should go to the banana farm. The coffee should go to the coffee farm. But it's a long way. It will take much more years to come to that point.
We need to. It's a challenge that we have.
It's a really challenge, and it's just.
And we are also too small for that. That's the same. I started the cafe, but for me, I was on the awareness of the fact that we're not paying the real price. So my money, I will remediate at the end of the year to the True Price organization because I'm simply too small. The money that comes in, but we are here to show the bigger companies that we just have to act and not talk and dream. But act like what's happening in the COP. They come with a fund for the recovery. That's the medicine. That's not the cure. So, but we are here. We took our head above the field to show that it's possible, that you can earn money with it, that it's possible, but it takes a lot of attention, care, and endurance.
Then we need to change the system.
But for the bigger companies, you can do that. Because then you get bigger amounts and then you can remediate in your own chain because that's what's needed, the innovation in your own chain.
Perfect. I'll give Michel, because
briefly,
you're jumping
it's
up.
a good question.
Final.
Obviously, there's generic remediation providers such as Land Life Company and Give Directly. They use, for example, conservation to absorb carbon from the atmosphere, or they give directly to the poorest of the poor. It's traceable, it's also assured, third-party assurance, so that is kind of a way to guarantee, but that's far from ideal. You rather go, instead of offsetting, insetting on the farm, where it actually should be prevented. And then you can work with also auditors, third-party auditors. For example, PwC once audited the remediations provided by Tony Chocolonely, and that is an example. But again, this is relatively early stage, so this whole assurance system should mature. So it's kind of, an ongoing effort, and this is, I think, part of the innovation agenda.
Perfect. Good to point out the challenges. I think looking at the time, that was the final question for tonight. Sorry, but if you do have another question, please feel free. I guess you're open for people to approach you, right? I think that's fine. They're very approachable, so you can approach them afterwards. Please give a warm applause to our lovely panel of tonight. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we are now approaching the break, and I can imagine everybody would love to have a drink, a snack, maybe stretch their legs a little bit, because we discussed a lot. We started with Henk Hofstede talking about Black Friday, talking about fashion and all the polluting impacts that it has. Michel Scholte afterwards talked about True Price, very passionate about all the processes that have happened the last year as well. Peter Singer then reminded us of the impacts of not included externalities, that they affect everybody, but they mostly affect the most vulnerable, and that we need to switch our mind to a more long-term view. Then Gilberto followed, giving us back our relationship with products that we need and to really see true value of things again. And lastly, of course, the insight of our panel that are already implementing True Price in practice. So please give a warm applause again to all the speakers that were here tonight. Now, on a more practical note, and then I will really let you go have your drink. The deep dive sessions, those who have registered for them, they will happen in this same area, and I have to say this right because otherwise it will be chaos. The red one will be in there on the right. The blue one will be there on the left. The yellow one is hidden a little bit, but it's behind the stage. And then the green one will be in the back where the sofas are. And I'm told that each of you knows which one to go. You have all a sticker. And if not, again, please feel free to approach a member of the True Price team. You can recognize them on the blue ribbons. For now, I would like, yes. For all the speakers, as a thank you, you will all receive a tree certificate. And of course, for environmental reasons, we printed one. But you will receive one in your email later on. For now, I would like to thank all of you for coming. Thank you for your attention. I hope we inspired you. I hope you will be a little bit more inspired in the deep dive sessions. And please now enjoy the break, enjoy a drink. Thank you for coming.